The faces you see have either been affected or know someone who's been affected by drug abuse. Whether it's a classmate, a close friend, even a family member, it seems like more and more people are falling victim to addiction.
And what's worse is that you don't have to look far to find it. It surrounds us every day.
They did heroin and meth.
We've seen people passed out in ditches.
I definitely felt like I could have died.
According to the CDC, more than 1 in 4 teenagers vape, which is a 7% increase from only 4 years ago. Which makes sense considering that most of us either know someone who vapes or have friends who know someone that vapes.
So in South Carolina, the age to purchase cigarettes or vapes is 18 years old. Where it gets a little bit different is on a school campus. So on a school campus, nobody can possess tobacco products. Usually with the nicotine or cigarettes, there are going to be suspensions.
Impact of inhaling any substance can cause your heart rate to go up, it can cause your nervous system to be depressed, it can cause you to have mental health issues in the long term.
While this increase in vaping activity is concerning, the real scare is people not knowing what they're getting.
What people don't understand is, in particular with the vapes, those cartridges can really be loaded with just about anything. But really the scariest thing that we have right now is fentanyl.
Most recently, we've seen vapes being laced with fentanyl.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that can be up to 100 times stronger than morphine.
We've seen boys passed out in the bathroom stalls, in girls' bathrooms, and we've talked to students that were just completely incoherent to the point where they had to be transported via EMS to the hospital.
The recommendation, the rule, is that you not take any medications, vapes, cigarettes, anything that doesn't belong to you.
You know, and you might even be buying from a friend who got it from somewhere else that they don't know what's in it. You don't know what's actually in there.
When you hear that, it's easy to think that it would be impossible for it ever to happen to you. Sadly, it's actually a lot more possible and a lot closer than you would imagine.
Last month, a 17-year-old girl overdosed smoking marijuana, barely surviving, and when the police seized and tested it, they found traces of amphetamines and fentanyl. This happened less than half a mile away from Summerville High.
We actually had that instance where we had 3 students here at Summerville High School that thought they really believed that what they had was regular THC, and when they inhaled it, it was not, and they had a very, very bad situation on their hands. To the point where we thought one of them was going to die.
It is really dangerous, and even just one time can lead to really negative effects.
So as you can see, it's more than adults just telling us not to do something. These choices are truly life-changing for the people making the choices and the people closest to them.
But you can listen to us tell you facts all day. Now we'd like to quiet down and listen to some stories from the students in Summerville High School.
It can be easy to say yes to vaping when you're in a vulnerable place in life. But when you try it one time, it can be difficult to make that the only time. The long-term detrimental side effects are always in the back of my mind. I wish I would have never started.
My dad was offered weed when his dad offered it to him as a kid. Eventually ended up getting addicted to the feeling. As a kid, I remember like my parents would argue all the time. And I think one time, the police came, and I remember like being, I think like 7 on a school night. I remember just like staying up and like looking up at the cops. And I didn't really understand it. Whenever he didn't have access to it, he would go crazy. He would throw tantrums. He never really was involved in my life, and he still isn't. Whenever I see like a daughter-father relationship in movies, I get sad because I kind of wish that was me.
You know, it's weird as a kid not remembering a time my aunt and uncles didn't have addictions. I can't really remember a Christmas where they weren't outside the whole time smoking. I never had a good relationship with many of my extended family members, and part of that is due to their addictions to smoking and drinking. They really couldn't last long in one conversation before going outside to smoke. As a kid, that makes you feel unimportant or like smoking was prioritized over talking to you. It's weird not remembering their voices before it got all raspy. You care about them, and seeing them like that really eats you up inside.
My best friend, I had recently found out, because he died due to a drowning because he was trying to save his friend. Little did I find out that he was under the influence of drugs, and him and his friend's little heroic story may not be as heroic as it seems from what I'm now hearing with my new information. He used to do weed heavily every single day. It could have been prevented if they were more safe, more responsible, and had not done anything at all.
At 14, I made a promise to my mom that I would never smoke or touch any sort of drugs. I never wanted to put her through the pain of losing a child to addiction again. I never truly got to know my older brother. On rare occasions when he was sober enough, he would spend time with us and babysit. But past age 10, he moved downtown and I never saw him again. He has been addicted to nicotine since high school, only getting worse after being prescribed opioids. As time went on, his addiction only worsened. He couldn't keep a job and had 2 kids of his own who he never could father. There becomes a point to where there's only so much you can do. He became homeless and lived in the streets. In December of 2019, he was murdered. Found with syringes and needles neatly packed near him, black and blue in the face. We know who did it. They ran off elsewhere and never received any sort of repercussions. We don't know for sure why they did it. Maybe he was in extreme debt and never paid up. Maybe word spread that he was giving info to the police. Either way, my brother, my mother's child, was dead.
Whenever I first started vaping, a couple of my friends were doing it. The peer pressure, I started doing it, and then over time I just used it more and more, was addicted for several years. I've had a family member who did heroin, and they did it all the time, and then one day they did way too much, and it was laced, so they died that day.
I've overdosed, believe it or not, on marijuana, and the other drug was fentanyl. The fentanyl one, it was laced in with marijuana with something called wax. Wax is one of the easiest forms of marijuana to lace because it's literally mush, and you can inject any type of drug in there without anybody knowing whatsoever. This guy I knew, thought I trusted him. He said, take this, tip of your fingernail, not the whole fingernail, the tip of your fingernail, that much fentanyl can kill you. I had probably a whole fingernail worth because I took 1.5 grams of wax. It took about 20-30 minutes to kick in. I was feeling it, my head was, everything was spinning. Tried calming down, couldn't calm down. My heart was racing. I was with other people too, and they had to go, so I had to go home because my mom and dad called me. I started driving, and that wasn't the best idea. I just started puking. The people that I smoked with came by because they forgot something in the van. I was unconscious when they came, and they said I had no pulse, like my heart stopped or whatever. I went to the emergency room. They tested me. I tested positive for marijuana and fentanyl. They thought I tried to kill myself. I mean, I learned from my mistake. I'm clean now. I just quit everything. Like, you think you have to do it to fit in. Like, you think you have to, like, go to these parties. You think you have to, like, go and drink, go and smoke, do nicotine. So, I mean, I'm grateful to be alive. I feel like when I get tempted, like, I want to go out and buy myself one because it's easy to get, it's so easy to get drugs. Like, I can't stress that enough. From a meth head down the street or coke addict 2 roads down. I feel like at the end of the day, for me, God tells me, like, you're so much better than that. Like, he tells me every day, like, you don't even understand your own potential yet. If you get tempted or you want to, I recommend you don't. Just be safe.
Hopefully, at least one of these stories spoke to you the way they spoke to us.
At the end of the day, we're doing this because we care. These are people's lives we're talking about, and it's not just adults talking to us, we are talking to us.
If you can, stay out of it. And if you get into it, have people around you who can help you out of it.
It is definitely necessary to get help if you need it.
Why would you want to go into there? Like, people die. Like, I've seen people die.
As teenagers, it's easy to think that nobody will understand or that there's nothing else to go to, but that's just not true. There are people you can lean on, people around you that don't want to lose you.
And if you are that person who knows somebody that's choosing these things, be there for them. Be the friend to them that you want when you're at your lowest. We've only got one life. Live it like it matters.